Good morning, Connect Church. How's your Monday going? My name is Charles Wolf, Director of Men's Ministries here at Connect Church in Ventura, and I've got a devotional for us today. The book of Hebrews. I'm holding my Bible down here in case you wonder, why is he always looking down there? It's talking about the children of Israel walking through the desert for the promised land. And we're told that God's response to their rebellion and their disobedience was that he said, you will no longer enter into my rest. The promise I made is now not going to apply to you because of your rebellious act. So chapter 4, let's pick up. Therefore, while the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us fear lest any of you should seem to have failed to reach it. For good news came to us just as to them, but the message they heard did not benefit them because they were not united by faith with those who listened. Lord, show us your truth. Now, I live in the city of Ventura, and when I moved here 35 years ago, whatever it was, they began to notice that the aquifers under our city were dropping. And they were concerned because we live by the ocean, and if the underground water, the water table they call it, if that gets too low, then we can have salt water from the ocean intrude into those aquifers, and it can ruin perfectly good drinking water. We can't use it anymore, and we would be in a world of hurt. So they brought in some experts, some engineers, and they changed several things. First of all, we have a couple of rivers here that run right through our town, and they usually run year-round. They're not huge, but they decided there was enough water going down, at least one of them, that they diverted it, and they put it out in these things called percolation ponds. They're like small man-made lakes. And by letting that water be diverted into those ponds and filling them up whenever they could, the water settled into the soil and fed the underground aquifers, and we were saved from ourselves. But we continued to build more houses, and more businesses moved into the area. Plus, we paved a lot more of our city and our area. And everywhere that happens, whether it's a freeway or a huge parking lot in a mall or just a whole area full of industrial buildings, where the roofs and the pavement sheds the rainwater, they were feeding that rainwater into storm drains, into the river, and then right out to the ocean. And again, that water was not benefiting us. So they changed the way we build. They changed the requirements. And all the developers, all the builders had to find ways to catch and hold some of that storm water. We still have overflow systems. So if it's just an incredible storm, the water fills those things up, then the overflow goes off into the river and out to the ocean. But enough is held, and it's allowed to settle, and it's allowed to do something good for us. I think this passage is warning us, fellow believers, when you hear preaching, and there's so much good preaching available. Our pastor, our own pastor, preaches a message every Sunday. It's available. He does what he calls his garage devotionals, where he does a personal devotional, very much like I do mine, just sitting here in my studio. And my goodness, there are mega church pastors, there are small church pastors, there are Bible teachers, there are all kinds of people that you can watch. We can get just a flood of biblical input. But if all of that isn't allowed to settle in onto our minds, into our hearts, and change our lives, then it's like all that rainwater that for years and years was just running off and being dumped. I don't want us to be that way. We should pray, Lord, help us to take in the truth of your word, of your faithful men of the Bible who are preaching and teaching. But let it come into our lives and let it change us. That needs to be our prayer. Well, that's all I've got for you today. You know I love you. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.